Hi, and welcome to Business 101 with Mareevuitton. I'm Marie, and I'm excited to have you join me. Whether you're just starting out or looking to sharpen your skills, this series is designed to equip you with the essential knowledge and tools you need to thrive, from basic terminology to starting your business. Covered. This playlist is comprised of my responses to the questions that came in when I posed the following. Give me 1 to 2 questions about business or tax that you wish you knew more about. In this video, we're going to go over tax credits, claiming kids, and your home office. But before we jump in, a quick reminder, this channel is about creating useful content that educates its viewers. And the way we know what topics are helpful to you is by clicking the thumbs up button below and sharing this video with others. And of course, we'd love to hear from you, so drop your questions and feedback in the comments below. And be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay updated. Before we dive in and talk about tax credits and deductions and different things, different questions that came up, I thought I would just touch base on what a tax return is. The form that you're looking at is a 2023 1040 form. It is available on the irs.gov website. It's the basic form for a tax return. And if you really just take the time to read it, I don't expect everybody to grasp the more complex issues, but if we can just grasp the basics and maybe fill in the blanks for some of the things, it could make everybody's understanding of why tax is so important, why you filing and your contributions to that are so important, and why I think doing things the right way is always going to be more advantageous. I go over that in many of the videos that I talk about tax concepts. Okay, so that being said, I just want to show you in its most basic form. There's obviously a lot more forms that can accompany this, but this is the basic form. Okay, you can see that your basic info, which does contain sensitive info, and that of your spouse would be listed on a return. The way that you're going to file based on your circumstances, okay, and you can see what they are. And I do have instructions, so I'll show you that. I definitely tell everybody to just download it, take a look at it, just understand the basics, because if you really read this, it's not difficult, okay? And the only things that would need more complex things would be, some of the investments and things like that. But these, in its most basic form, and even with TurboTax, is so easy to use. I'm not a big proponent for TurboTax, however, for more complex issues. For the basics and for most everybody that's an employee, it's definitely great to use. If you have accurate financials and you're an LLC or a sole prop, super easy to do it there too. It's when people want to dance around, which is also illegal, it's fraud, when they want to state numbers wherever they see fit, plugging them away wherever it adjusts what's due. Okay, but I think the reason why it's so easy to tell when some of these things are off is because they are off. They're lies, or they're just incorrectly submitted information, okay? Sometimes due to a lack of knowledge. So be mindful of who you get to prepare your taxes. That matters. You don't need a CPA to file them. So a lot of people are filing them all across the board, so I would just be mindful of that. The majority of people can do it on their own using TurboTax or any of the other softwares, okay? So that being said, I'm just gonna dive into some questions, okay? Like I said, before we dive into those questions, I wanna make sure you know, to me, this is just an application. So tax return at a personal level is just recapping what they already know is tied to your Social Security number, okay? Let me rephrase that. Let me say that again. I look at the tax return as your application to the taxing authorities be it federal or state level, to recap, good, bad, or indifferent, what happened to you from a financial aspect for the year. Okay? It does give you a period of time, and if you want to change the period of time, you can do so here. The reason why it's important to know the year that you're dealing with is because, over time, as we all have experienced, things, the inflation and everything else has increased. So a lot of these forms are based on the rules and regulations and different things that are in place for that year. So be mindful when you're filling out tax documents and when you're receiving them from others. Make sure you know what year you're dealing with, because it's oftentimes a big situation, especially if somebody's behind on tax. That's a whole nother video. Okay, so this is what I see. So if you think that the IRS does not know what's tied to your social, I'm going to tell you that they do. Okay, everything is tied basically back to a social. That's why you can't open certain accounts without one and things like that. So moving on to tax write-offs, some of the questions are basically trying to understand tax write-offs and things like that. So I want to explain that tax write-offs isn't really what it sounds like, okay? You need to understand the basic principle and the kind of tax that we're dealing with and how this pertains to your individual circumstance, okay? Write-offs are basically credits or deductions that you get based on your specific circumstance and tax filing status, okay? But the primary things that would affect, okay, the refund or balance due is going to be, obviously, you have to have a period, so usually we're dealing with years, okay? So you're going to fill that out. And in this case, the number of people that are going to be claimed. If you're married, that's the two of you. It's better, more advantageous. But for different reasons, some people don't want to file together. Okay, so those are some things that are typically the main things of setting up a tax return, because that dictates a lot of the other stuff. So you can't be a dependent and claim dependence. That's a main thing. And your spouse should not be claimed as a dependent. And you can indicate if that's the case. Okay, you're going to have specifics for your dependents, and not everybody would be privy to certain credits. Okay, you do get additional, or you get child tax credits for your children, and there's different rules. So I'm not going to get into that because this video would take a lot longer than it's short form. Okay, so again, in this section here, if you break it all out, are ways that you would earn income. Okay, everything that you earned for the year, it's going to be outlined in these different boxes. Okay, and from there, any adjustments, again, these would require additional forms, but basically is going to be filled out here. And you do get a standard, you can see here, let's make it bigger, deduction depending on your situation, and that gives you the ability to calculate your adjusted gross income. Okay, you can see here that there are different deductions that would come into play, because you do get, if you have a business, there are some things that would come into play here, okay, for your self-employment tax and things like that, child tax credits, so on and so forth. These are deductions, they're credits, okay? They're just going towards whatever tax liability you would owe based on this total, this adjusted gross income, okay? So I don't want to go too far ahead or lose anybody here, but what you need to understand when you are, I always refer to this as your application for money back, or to show, what you might owe, okay? And how that's calculated, you can clearly see here, if totals were withheld from 1099s or W-2s, they would be outlined here. If you had earned income credit or other things, if you made estimated payments, all those kinds of things, because it's basically going to count against your tax liability. Your tax liability right here is based on the tax brackets for this income. Okay, it's super simple when you think about it that way. Okay, and the only things that are going to affect different claimings and deductions here are going to be medical and dental, and I can show you that. Let's see. Do I not have it? Oh, I don't have it up. I'll pull it up though. It's basically a Schedule A, okay? And that's itemized deductions, which would be medical and dental expenses not reimbursed, but over 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. Actually, we can put it back here. Estimated tax payments that you would come here, post here, sorry about that, and sales tax on larger purchases, including vehicles. Actually, I don't know why I don't have that form up, but I will pull it up. That's irs.gov. You can see I'm on the IRS website, and I will just do a Schedule A. And that way we can look at that while we're talking about it. Okay, so these are the only things that you can take that would increase, that you would hope to increase. So these totals you can only get to claim if it is more, or if it makes sense to claim because it's more than the standard deduction. So the total of all this would need to be more than $13,850 for a single individual. Okay, so you can see it's medical and dental expenses, prescriptions and things like that, but it has to be over the portion that's over 7.5% of this total. So for most people, it's kind of high. Okay. Taxes you paid of any kind, like state and local income tax, property tax, vehicle registration in some cases, mortgage interest here for up to 2 homes, for up to $750,000 only. Okay, so if your mortgage is more than that, you only get to claim it on the first $750,000. Okay, so if you paid more mortgage interest, it's going to only apply to the portion up to $750,000. Okay, and there's a way to calculate that. Okay, gifts to charity, cash or otherwise, and casualty, thefts, and losses. Okay, if there are questions as to specifics and random questions about this, you can pull up the IRS website instructions. You can literally see the link there, and that will explain it all to you. But there is no magic claiming. You're basically telling them, recapping to them what happened for the year. There is documentation from others that verifies everything that you submit. And if you cannot substantiate the things that you are claiming, you could get audited and penalized. So think about that. Send your questions, feedback and comments below. And you can email info@mareevuitton.com for any of the forms, or you can pull them up from the irs.gov website. Thank you.